Welcome to another edition of Dynamics Fortnite Fridays.
where we cover everything big and small in the world of Dynamics business applications.
How you doing, Max?
Not too bad. I mean, can't complain. Other than the fact that summer, I guess, came to an end, I should say. I wanted to say coming to an end.
Meteorologically and from the school calendar, yes, officially we haven't hit September 22nd yet. So it's kind of weird how those things never coincide with what you think of in your head. But yeah, it feels like the summer's over. We're into fall in terms of the brain right now for sure.
Yeah, so we'll be in for at least some good times, once we get into Halloween and Thanksgiving. But I can't say I'm looking forward to the end of summer. But with that, at least I've got a fun vacation coming up. In a week from today, heading out to Italy to spend a week there.
It'll,
Yeah,
that sounds awesome. So
pretty
you got a whole
exciting.
week.
Yep, gonna be flying into Rome. Then decide to be renting a car, so I'm interested to see how that goes and how driving there. Then driving to Florence, going to then Tuscany for a friend's wedding, and then heading back to Rome to fly back here. Quite
That's one thing
exciting.
I actually don't know off the top of my head is do they drive on the left side of the road or the right side of the road in
They
Italy?
drive on the right side of the road, but
Okay,
they
so it'll feel familiar in terms of that anyway.
that yes, but they have apparently restricted zones in certain cities that you can't drive in unless you have a special permit. And
Ooh.
I hear that there's cameras that will take a picture of your car and you get a nice little hefty bill. So fingers crossed that I don't enter there.
Gotta study your map before you drive to make sure you don't hit those areas. Uh-huh. Well,
Yep,
cool. Well, do you have a dad joke for me?
of course I do. And, as always, like to have it be a bit thematic, as I think you do the same. So, given that I'm going to Italy, I've been doing a lot of research and, been finding out a lot of different things. So, I was researching the Tower of Pisa. And
Ah,
so I found out as a proven scientific fact why it's leaning. Do you know what that is?
there's a joke here. So it's not like the settling of the earth, this leaning. You got me. What you got?
It was italicized.
Oh, I love it. Okay. And it kind of fits in with Italy, italicized, and the
Yeah,
font, gleaning. That's good. That's
for
good.
talking software, I felt like it fit in. It was
Yeah, yeah. I may have to actually do a little research to figure out where the origin of the word italicized came from because I don't know, but that may have something to do with it. Anyway, I've got one back, and I chose to go with the back to school theme since that's been happening all over Minnesota this past week. And did a lot of hefty research and had all sorts of teachers that were surveyed, and we were going for what the favorite three words are of a Minnesota teacher. Any ideas on what those three favorite words were?
school is out,
You're on the right track.
end of year, summer is here.
July, August, September. No, I'm sorry, June, July, August were the three favorite words of every teacher.
Okay, fair.
All right, well, we've got a couple of groaners out there. Let's go to some actual content people might be interested in watching. So, well, I'll start as usual with Power Platform news. So, it's been for being off for a month. So, sorry we didn't have enough content and that we had a lot of vacations 2 weeks ago. So, we just didn't have a session. But for having a month's worth of content, it's relatively light. I think on the Power Platform side, especially on my terms, that the product teams have this conference coming up here in just a couple of weeks, and they've probably been holding back some of the things that they've been working on in terms of announcing them so that they can announce at that conference. So I expect this content to plus up considerably by the next show. Anyway, one of the big things is for those of you who write Dataverse plugins, pretty important part of being able to extend the base functionality of Power Platform on the Dataverse side and take control where desired. That when writing a Dataverse plugin, now in public preview, you can use a managed identity within that so you don't have to store any kind of credentials and that you can use these workload identities and they can use the federated identity credential capability of Entra ID to be able to handle all of that kind of identity management from a authorization and authentication standpoint that you need. Actually, it's really just the authentication. The authorization you still have to provide for that identity, but all of that stuff is now possible. So as you go through this, you can either use a user-assigned identity or an app registration, either one, and that you don't have to manage those credentials anymore. So just a really nice move forward in making it easier to be highly secure while at the same time making it not so much of a dev effort in order to keep safe. So take advantage if you're one of those folks. If you utilize the schedule board capability, which is part of our unified resource scheduling type capability, it's a little bit agnostic, but most often used in the field service realm of Dynamics, but this is still a Power Platform asset, that if you use that schedule board, there are some nice new features that you can have personal preferences that you can save. And so if you use your schedule board and you kind of change some things around about some of your defaults and what you want for time frame shown and that kind of stuff, that it will work with your local cache to remember your board and know what the last SX tab was, whether the map panel's open or closed, whether you're looking at the Gantt list or some other list view of the records, whether you're looking at daily, hourly, weekly views, you know, all that stuff, column whips and everything else, all will be stored by your local computer cache so that next time you pop it open, it's looking and feeling just like you left it. That in itself is huge, but you can also share these things as links so that if you want to send a link to someone else so they can see things just like you are looking at them by just clicking on it, another big win. So feel free to start playing around with some of those new schedule board capabilities if you utilize it. Another hot product, the SAP capabilities in using Power Platform to sort of enhance what you can do with SAP. We got a few different things. So the OData connector, which is now in public preview, hasn't gone generally available yet, but it's a big step forward if you're using those OData endpoints of SAP. We can now, instead of requiring you to authenticate by putting all of your credential stuff in, you can allow single sign-on if you have fronted that through Azure API management. So a lot of power in being able to do that and making it much easier for your users to just get in and use that connector. So lots of detail about how that works. Also on the kind of regular ERP connectors that have to go through the BAPI and X509 and all the other things, that we are allowing you to use the certificate-based SSO with that connector as well. So building on what we kind of had already done, we can now use Entra ID authentication using certs on those connectors. So just more things that we're doing to make it possible to be very secure, but not tax the users with so much extra memory of what their passwords are and being able to authenticate to these things that it causes other problems. So nice other step forward. Power Platform command line interface, highly powerful, wonderful from an application lifecycle management perspective, and almost all of the things like the Power Platform build tools for GitHub Actions and for Azure DevOps are all built using scripting that we took on your behalf of the Power Platform CLI commandlets. But we thought it might be really helpful to have a nice kind of walkthrough that would teach someone how to just create their own scripts if something was something they wanted to do in Jenkins or something they just wanted to do standalone that wasn't part of, you know, a GitHub or an Azure DevOps pipeline that they were constructing, but just needed to be able to script things together that they wanted to do. And so it's a nice walkthrough of how you might do something that's very ALM focused, all in Power Platform scripts with examples. So if that's going to help you in creating some of those scripts for your scenarios, please take advantage of that. Next up, there is a new page in the Power Platform Admin Center in preview for copilots. And this new page that is just on your left-hand navigation if you're an admin, it lights up all kinds of ways to sort of track what's going on with the various co-pilots in your organization. And this will be M365 Copilot, Sales Copilot, Service Copilot, bespoke copilots made from Copilot Studio. Lots of ways to quickly navigate to educational resources and some of the widgets that get put on that page. Things about usage insights and how many people are using the copilots, even the ones that are built into some of the Power Platform tools like Copilot inside of Power Apps or Power Automate or Power Pages or whatever. What your governance controls are and what the various things are that might be ones you want to turn on that aren't on get kind of surfaced in a very visible way. So nice things to think about there. And then ways to look at your content moderation properties and how they've been set up to make sure that they are the way you want them to be. So take advantage of looking at that Copilot page in your admin center, and please give us feedback on whether it's helpful or not and what else would be even more helpful to you and your teams in managing this. As always, Clay Wiesner puts together a nice summary of the month's worth of changes in Power Apps. So I always like to at least browse through it and see if there's anything that's been missed. So there are some kind of advertisements here for episodes of shows that they are doing. So if you're going to be watching shows like ours, maybe you want to take advantage of the things that those teams built, like their Pulse as well. We had already talked in the last show with can we use or how to use Copilot to quickly look at the Canvas app controls with SharePoint lists and do things. So nice to know that's been featured. Another kind of blog post or show type advertisement here. Reminder that we've had this on our show as well, that there is now a way to directly call SQL stored procs through the SQL connector directly in the app without having to jump out into Power Automate to do it. So a nice new feature there. Some nice things in the governance area that he's calling out that have been there for a little while, but certainly nice to remind everyone that there are ways to go into your settings for the environment that ends up being kind of the Dataverse settings area, and that you can turn on the ability to see and delete things like users that were added but have now been deactivated, and you just like them to get out of the user table, that you used to never be able to do that kind of thing. And there's some new capabilities on the application user page here that are kind of new that you can also, and those application users, add, update, or deactivate them directly from the page. It used to be you could add them and you could change their security posture, but deleting them was really not possible, and updating them really pretty much had to go back to Azure if you needed to do any updates because it was creating that app reg in the background. Anyway, all of that stuff is covered in these areas, and then Clay is great at all the documentation updates. I don't know how he keeps track of all of those, but they're pretty handy. I'm not going to rifle through them for you. And I only have one other thing, and that's just a new feature on your mobile device, whether it be a phone or a tablet, that if you are using the remote assist type capabilities for especially field service, that no longer requires a separate app on your phone for remote assist. You can just see and make those spatial annotations, making the arrows and circling things and presenting things right from within your team's mobile client now. So there'll be one less app required on those mobile devices in order to be able to kind of do all the things you might want to do with the conference call and the screen sharing and video sharing that was easily done in Teams. Well, you can now do all of that, including these spatial annotations, all from the mobile Teams app. So nice update there. And that's what I've got for the last month's worth of news, Max. So I'm going to stop sharing and let you jump into all of your content.
Sounds good. Yeah, and in a similar manner, or following the theme, I've got quite a few blog posts to walk us through today. It seems like, with our Wave 1 features now pretty much fully deployed in most customers' environments, and us gearing up for Wave 2, we've got a few new features I've seen come out in the last few weeks, but I've mostly been seeing a lot of brand new blog posts, really helping customers think through some new ideas, especially what we're going to see on the AI end is, really going through your business processes and seeing how AI can enhance those. So for today, I got, again, as I mentioned, mostly blog posts, but I did bookend it with a couple features, so we'll definitely be walking through something there. So to kick off, now first we have our HR, Retail, Business Central, and Project section, but actually include something a little bit different. On our last session, we talked about Copilot for Finance. So this is a Copilot experience on top of M365 that can integrate with any ERP system. There's direct connections for D365 and SAP. And then for any other system, you've got a custom integration connector that you can connect to. Now, we talked about that last time, and we'll definitely point you to that recording for getting some of those additional information. Or once you come to the link here, you can really go through Copilot for Finance and understand how this can be used to enhance your finance resources. But what I found in the last couple weeks is a brand new document site on getting started with Copilot for Finance in the SAP Collections template. So if you walk through this document, especially a lot of this document setup or the integration setup on how to create this connector, you may notice there's a large overlap with creating the SAP connector for the procurement package that's also available within Power Platform. The both look to be utilizing the same connector, just in slightly different fashions. However, you can go through and set up your SAP connection by going through all these documents and have immediate access to our collections template, which what that is an Outlook experience where you can connect into your SAP data. And if you put someone in the to line, the connector will be able to locate any relevant contacts in your SAP system. And then from that, any relevant customers that contact is associated with. So if you're utilizing SAP, definitely point this out and recommend going to take a look into this feature, as well as just Copilot for Finance as a whole. Next, we've got Copilot for D365 Commerce, revolutionizing retail with AI. So for any commerce users out there or anyone who's maybe thinking about commerce, recommend giving this a look. So this is talking about a plethora of brand new Copilot features that are being implemented into our D365 Commerce product. So we've got a brief video on how you can see that in action, but I'll just call out to the main feature sets. First being customer insights. So we've got mainly main customer dashboard where we have insights of all interactions and experiences with those customers. We're going to be seeing things such as their favorite product categories, preferred price ranges, lifetime value based on recency, frequency, and monetary metrics, and just a whole lot more. So if you're interested there, we have a link. Additionally, we've got our product insights. So similar to our customer insights workspace, we're going to be having a product-centric version of this, where at a product level, you'll be having Copilot generate you AI insights on any experience with that product or any buying tendencies. Next, we have just overall reporting insights, giving you analysis on your overall reports, retail statement insights, and then also finally merchandising more efficiently. So for any commerce users, I recommend going through here and reading through this blog post. Next, we have a not a brand new, but a new article on how we can utilize the different reporting feature sets within Business Central to really drive home this data-driven reporting for our CFOs. So just to start off, it gives a quick breakdown of the different reporting features that are available within Business Central and different use cases when you should be utilizing each of these. And then from there, we go into some brand new Power BI reports that are going to be implemented directly in Business Central. However, these are also going to be available from Power BI. And what that means for us is that we'll have the ability to use Copilot in Power BI to leverage our Business Central reporting to provide further insights. Finally, last thing I would definitely call out attention to here, just to maybe satiate your appetite for this blog post, is this other ways that Business Central is supporting data-driven CFOs. We have a few main use cases, such as creating financial statements with no-code reporting, analyzing our financial data with Copilot in Dynamics Business Central, and then finally, using out-of-the-box Excel reports for finance to enhance all of your Business Central reporting capabilities. Next, we have just rounding out our section here, announcing end-of-life support for D365 PSA. So if you're maybe a newer D365 user, you may not be familiar with PSA. That's Project Service Automation. It's the older and deprecated version of what is now Project Operations. So there are still some users who are out on that older solution. And on March 19th, we announced our end-of-life support, but now we're officially announcing the no longer support date, which is going to be March 31st. So after this date, any support tickets or any incidents logged against PSA are going to be closed with instructions to upgrade to D365 Project Operations. So if you're currently on PSA, or if you're in need of any type of project accounting, project planning, then definitely recommend giving Project Operations a look.
Yeah, PSA didn't include any of that project accounting back-end
Yep.
capabilities that Project Ops has, which is a really big enhancement. So I think it's a good thing we're getting rid of those and just saying, if you want to do project work, do it the right way.
And the great thing there with Project Operations is you have multiple that you can deploy it. So we have a lightweight version for just project planning and resource planning that's available in just our CE and Power platform. But if you do need that project accounting, we can fully integrate with our finance and operations modules. Then actually with that, stepping into finance and supply chain, again, just leading off, we have a few main blog posts. First, transforming ERP and namely the speed of business with generative AI. I'm not going to go into all the details of all these posts, but this is really calling out from a business process standpoint how AI can be leveraged, such as using plan to produce. So using generative AI to aggregate data from across an enterprise. This can be from either a single system or multiple systems. Another scenario here is we see a lot of complicated interdependence of tasks on the manufacturing floor. Task A must be completed before task B can maybe even be started, scenarios like that. So this is as mentioned here, perfect puzzle for AI to help solve. So to help supplement the content here, we also have just want to call out our links here, linking us to our Copilot in D365 supply chain features and some other key material on optimizing plan to produce. We also have procure to pay, such as having streamlined procurement and name in one way, being a reduction of human error by using AI. Some other ways we can see this is rather than having our fragmented processes and siloed data, we can have AI supporting this to really aggregate our data and push it forth for all our users. And then finally, quote to cash. We see some scenarios here, automating price and quote information as one example. Another one being using AI predictive insights to ensure on-time delivery. One call out here, it's kind of similar to our finance insights, which has been in the product for a few years now, but really takes this not just one step further, but multiple steps further. Then one other just kind of overall blog post on generative AI within ERP. This focuses a bit more on some key features and how AI can be implemented here. So we see here using it to as a way to tailor to our modern business needs. So we can use AI to quickly assess and rank high and low impact changes so we can understand how and when we need to take action. Another scenario here is for planners who are stress testing our supply chains. We can utilize our Copilot Assistant with what-if scenarios. Additionally, we have AI enabling better project management. One key way is the Copilot for D365 project operations in creating project plans. I believe I may have mentioned this in our last session, but this is an incredibly powerful tool where you can use Copilot within project operations, give it some content or some prompt on what type of a project plan you need to be creating and any additional details. It will be able to go out to the web, search any additional project plan materials that have been documented publicly, and be able to create you a baseline project plan with work breakdown structure tasks for you to then begin building on top of. Another way is AI streamlining our financial processes. So this could be gaining comprehensive snapshots or ongoing snapshots and assessing data as we aggregate it. Another one can be collaboratively aligning our budgets with business strategy and using predictive analytics to sharpen our forecasts. And then finally, finding new workflows with generative AI. One way we can do this is using generative AI to collect all of our potential inputs and present them into relationship with each other, which we can read more about here. But I want to use this as a way to call out to our Power Automate process mining tool, because this is another way that we can find new workflows with generative AI. Our process mining tool can connect to the telemetry of D365 and give us some insight on a process like maybe quote to cash to understand any blockers in the process. Maybe there's a scenario where there's approval needed and no one's taking action. So our process mining tool can analyze that, understand what the blocker is, and then Copilot can give us the insight that this approval recurrence might be needed on a daily or weekly basis. And with a click of a button, we can have Copilot create that workflow for us. So in addition to the content we have here, also call out some attention to process mining. Now, just 3 things to go. First is a very quick blog post, approving on the go using a brand new approvals management app. So this is mainly for supply chain users, especially for purchase requisitions and purchase orders. So don't necessarily need to come here to read the full blog post, but we have some good links down here, including a preview to the app. So if you are using that, using our purchase requisitions and purchase orders and have need for an approval app, definitely recommend looking at this. Then last blog post for today is enhancing supply chain integrity with the use of quality control for in-transit goods. So for this, it's a brand new feature where we can have quality control for in-transit goods in addition to those that are currently in production or those that have been received. So for these, what we'll do is we set up goods in transit and associate them from a quality standpoint. In doing so, automatically, once the in-transit order registration is received, then a quality order will be created automatically for that item. From there, we'll have order control and release and be able to manage that and ensure that everything, even those items in transit, will be able to be fully quality control checked and verified. Finally, for today, one last feature, as I promised at the onset, extending Copilot capabilities in finance and operations. So wanted to round out with something that everyone can kind of maybe go home and not just do some reading on this weekend, but actually playing around. So I've been coming to this quite a bit myself. So as we may know, there's quite a few new Copilots that have been released within D365, both on the finance and supply chain side. However, one main one is our generative help Copilot. This one is key because out of the box, we can extend that and enhance it using some of the ways that are called out here. Definitely want to call out our tutorials. This is really for any type of user, whether you're a business user or a developer. You can go ahead and begin playing around with Copilot and understanding what it means to extend them and different ways to do so. One example, we have extending Copilot with our low-code plugins. So this is going to be perfect for anyone who's more of a business user, who's not had that developer background. What we do here is we're extending the out-of-the-box Copilot to provide some translation for us when it comes to our human resources course IDs. Now, this is just a tutorial on using course IDs as an example, but if we put this into production, a perfect use case here could be translating things like product descriptions, where we can have Copilot do translation for us based off data that's in the system. And we could even create a Power Automate flow to write that back to the system. A scenario might be creating e-commerce product descriptions in multiple languages. So if you've played around with Copilot but are looking to take it to the next level, definitely recommend giving this all a look. So with that, and let's see, we only have 1 minute left. Bart, I know we've got a good few solution updates. Anything in particular you want to call through?
Yeah, I mean, there's a month's worth of these solution updates. So there's quite a few of them you'll see in there that get updated weekly. And there have been at least 4 different updates. Think of things like the globalization solutions for F&O, that those are updated very frequently. Of course, many of the other ones are only updated once or maybe twice in the last month. So again, look through the list. If there are things that you use, at least look at the updates in a non-production environment. If it's going to be really helpful, then figure out how you're going to incorporate that into your release cycles. Outside of that, I think we're good to go, Max. So thanks for another great show, and we'll see all of you in a fortnight.
It was a pleasure. See you in a fortnight.